Legion fans rejoice. Ministravangaza gave us some sweet, sweet loot. Let's talk about it. So there he is, officially, the Mando. 105 points, 5 wounds, 3 courage. You can see there from the keywords, he is a pretty impressive individual. The fact that he gets an aim and a dodge, not an or, and. He gets both tokens if he's not issued an order. Uh, Big deal. Top that off with Tactical 1, and we got ourselves a pretty beefy guy. Now, out of the gate, without any upgrades, one thing that's blaringly obvious is he does not have his rifle. That is an upgrade card, and we'll take a look at that here in a second. But AMG did seem to indicate that they are looking to have him be more of a close combat fighter slash beat stick instead of the long range sniper guy. And that kind of plays into how they designed his mini and the fact that they did not give you multiple options. They only gave you the pistol gunslinger option that we saw in Star Wars Celebration when he was revealed. That being said, though, he's still fantastic. I mean, my gosh, he gets some nice sweet loot. He's got a 2 red and a black for range 2 on his pistol. However, the pistol is long shot 1, so you spend one of those fancy aim tokens that you get almost every turn. And now he's got a 2 red black range 3 pistol. If he is going to get into melee combat, he's got a 2 black die vibro knife that's lethal 1. Again, very, very impressive. He is impervious. He is Arsenal 2. He gets to use up to 2 of his weapons. So there's that. I mean, he's a pretty significant beastie. Now, he does come with some interesting cards, and we'll take a look at those in a second here. Right here. What you got here is his rifle. And AMG introduced a new interesting mechanic in the double action here that you see. It takes 2 actions to use his rifle. But if you notice, it's 3 black attack dice, it's immobilized 2 and suppressive. In addition to that, notice that there is no range listed on this. There's no range here. In the description of the card, you spend the 2 of both of his actions, you get a speed 1 move that activates the tactical, which gives him a name token, by the way, and you get to target anything within his line of sight. That's anywhere on the table within his line of sight. And you get to roll 1 red attack dice on a hit or a crit. You get a wound that issues a wound and 1 suppression token. That's a big deal. What you got here is you got a short range fighter that has the ability to plink off wounds on some pretty significant units or miniatures, individual miniatures, before he gets in range of doing his short range beat stickness. I see there's already been some debate online of how playable the Amban rifle is going to be, and I can see where AMG was going with this, and they talked about it a little bit during the stream. They wanted him to be more of a short range fighter instead of being the guy that sits back in the background and shoots things from afar, because they want him to be more of the season 1 style Western Mando. And you didn't, I mean, though he did do some sniping in that, it wasn't the focus of the show. He was still very into, close combat. And we'll talk about Whistling Birds, that again plays into that whole role they have set for him being a mid range guy. That being said, though, you get quite the opportunity here with that Amban rifle to weaken units from afar. I mean, think about it. You're doing out of that means that literally nobody is safe. And now your defender, if you're bringing the Mando, your defender actually has to play things different because you have the chance to plink off one, maybe two wounds on somebody like Palpatine or Vader or Veers or somebody like that before they get into engagement range. That's pretty significant. And then when Mando does get into the mix, you got Whistling Birds, his 3-pip card that lets you target up to 3 enemy units, not figures, units within range 1 and line of sight. For each chosen unit, roll 1 white attack dice for every mini in that unit. That unit suffers 1 wound for each hit, crit, and surge result. That is huge. My gosh. That has the potential to turn the tide in one single card. Now, granted, I think what you're going to see here is you're going to see people that bring Mando. The opponent is going to try and get him down as quick as possible to prevent the abilities of these two cards from maximizing their potential. I mean, Whistling Birds is, my gosh, that's an absolutely amazing card. Now, since we're talking about Mando, we actually, we have to talk about Grogues and what he brings to the table. Now, Grogues is a counterpart, and they introduced this new mechanic called Hunted. Not entirely sure. I have mixed feelings about how this whole thing goes with Grogu. He he's got the latent power thing with his force powers, where you got to roll, and based on the roll is what happens to him, and he becomes hunted, and if he gets taken, and there's this claim asset. We'll have to see what his powers are that may or may not make him valuable to bring. But as just based on this card alone, I mean, I'm not seeing it. Now, if somebody wants to explain it to me, that's cool. I'm all ears. But as it stands, I don't see many people playing with Grogu at this point, simply because he's almost more of a liability than he is anything else. And the only people that can bring Grogu is if you take the Mando in the Rebel list. If you take him on Empire, he cannot be the Grogu cannot be taken with him. So we'll have to see how that whole thing plays out. So that was the Mando, and we got some interesting facts from that. He's obviously a monster. It's going to be great. We're going to see some cool things from him. The other guy we got to take a look at today was the new Boba Fett. Now, this is Book of Boba / Mando era Boba Fett, so he's a little more reserved, you would say, than he would be in his original card or his original character. Jump 1, Arsenal 2. He is impervious. He's independent. If you don't do anything with him, he gets a standby token right away. He has Sentinel, Sharpshooter 1 and Tactical. He does have a gaffy stick, and he has his E3 carbine. The gaffy stick is kind of cool because it's 3 red and 1. They're making it more of like a beat stick, which is fine. We knew that was kind of the way he was going to be versus his first incarnation, where he's way more aggressive than this one. 120 points. That's a little rich, but we'll see what happens with that. Interesting take on him. We know he's been coming. It's him on the tactical rock with a gaffy stick. Pretty cool looking card. We've seen it all before that. So that's another character that we got more information on post the reveal at Star Wars Celebration. The other one that we got to see was IG-88. And I don't believe I have it there. We got IG-88 and IG-11. Now, IG-88, obviously more of the shooter, long-range shooter. IG-11, more of the close range uh, fighter, and you can see that there in the difference of their cards. What's interesting though is that what we don't see is IG-88 does not have something new that they've given in the IG-11. We have a new kind of slot here. It's called a programming slot. Now, they were very secretive about what's happening with this programming slot, and we're going to start seeing that on some of these droids. And they're very kind of secrety. I'm going to leak, not really leak what they're about. Aside from one, we know of one for sure because that got revealed with IG-88 here, but or IG-11 here. But 110 points for IG-88. Armor 1, Arsenal 2. They're both 5 wound, 2 courage. They both have the same E11 and 28 rifle loadouts. You have the difference here in the vibro cleaver, and you have overpower for their melee. This is where you can see the difference. Now, IG-11 is 5 points cheaper, and he does come with that programming slot. Let's take a look at the programming card, that the one that they did reveal, and that is the nanny programming. It's interesting here that, IG-11 only, Rebel only. While building an army, Grogu gains counterpart IG-11, and IG-11 gains AI, dodge, move. So here's a second way to kind of field Grogu in a Rebel army. If you don't want to have him be a part of Mando, you can have him be with IG-11 instead. It's a 0-point upgrade card, so you can take it. I mean, you just kind of take it automatically at this point because I believe it's going to be the only programming card that's going to be out at the time. We did get a couple of surprises with the reveals. We got this bugger right here. Holy smokes. We got the Darktroopers and Moff Gideon. They're coming, and they look amazing. The models look amazing. AMG talked about how they got access to the Lucasfilm archives and actually used some of the archives and prototyped weapons to model for this unit. Like you have that Gatling gun and the rocket launcher there, and that kind of sword blade looking thing there. Those were all on the archive, and they allowed them to use them for the Dark Troopers. Let's take a look at the Dark Troopers. Imperial Dark Troopers. One big thing to notice right away. Boom. They are heavy. So they will replace an AT-RT, a tank. I mean, it's interesting. They are plotting, so they're slow, they're unconcerned, they don't get cover, they can't be repaired, they can't be restored. But the other interesting thing here is they also have unstoppable. These bros get 2 activations a phase. You heard me. 2 activations a phase. Now, they can only move once, but my God. I mean, that's move, attack, 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 attack. I mean, what? That's craziness. The other thing that's interesting here is they get 2 heavy weapon upgrades on their card, and they have one of the programming upgrades that we were just talking about. Now, they didn't reveal any specifics on Dark Trooper programming per se, but we do have one of Moff Gideon's command cards is "You have something that I want." Obviously, Choose a friendly Imperial Dark Troopers unit that has a face-up order token. So after you've run their 2 activations and they get their face-up order token, you can remove that unit from the battlefield, place it back on the battlefield beyond range 2 of an enemy units, then flip their order token face down. So they get 2 activations per phase. I mean, that's huge. That's a big, big deal. Big deal. Now, they did not give us any specifics on Gideon, other than he obviously gets the the dark saber. They didn't give us any. I mean, we only got to see that command card. That we didn't get to see his player card or anything like that. So, very interesting reveals. Now, a couple things that they did talk about that we didn't get to see, or we didn't get to see anything on, is we didn't get to see anything about Ashoka. They officially today confirmed that she's coming, but they didn't give us any details on when she's coming. They did talk about the little murder bears. They talked about Ewoks. They showed the same previews that they showed us in Star Wars Celebration. We know the Ewoks are coming. They gave the timeline of about middle of next year, and because that's when the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi is. So we'll see them release. They did talk about 2 more battle forces dropping around the same time, and they both revolve around Endor. So we'll see kind of an Ewok battle force. Whether or not that's going to include Leia, Han, 3PO, R2, and or Operative Luke, yet to be determined. The Rebels, so that's the Rebel side. The Empire side will actually see, they had said, more of a scout-based unit that was stationed on Endor. So a lot of scout troopers, speeder bikes, maybe some ATRTs, things of that nature. They did show art for one of the cards that the Ewoks will get, and it looks like they're going to be able to snag that ATRT and throw Chewie behind the wheel, just like in the movie. So we might see something surrounding a commandeered ATRT as a unit upgrade for the Ewok armies. They talked about how the Ewoks are very good against other infantry, however, not so much against armor. So they're very much trying to emulate, Return of the Jedi Ewoks and what they can and can't do. They also mentioned that the Ewoks will have some kind of ability to commandeer or take over equipment. There wasn't a whole lot of specificity around that, but again, that plays into the whole Jedi thing where like Wicket jumped onto the speeder bike and took off to distract the 2 scout troopers at the bunker. So we'll see that. We don't know now, although it's been confirmed that Rex was one of the rebel troopers in the scout team that Han took to the bunker. What we didn't hear if maybe Rex will be one of the upgrade cards that we'll see for the Rebel battle box or the Endor army. They didn't give a whole lot of specifics around the Endor force other than the Ewoks themselves. And they talked about how the Ewok leader will be more of a support role versus a beat stick. And that makes sense. He's cheering them on and inspiring them. So he'll probably have some kind of inspiring presence or something along those lines. Again, Chewie is most assuredly going to be in there, considering he's, I would think, key to the ATR, the commandeered ATRT. So what would be interesting to see is if you actually if your opponent brings an ATRT, if you have to like take it down or get some Ewoks and Chewbacca to it and then do some kind of action that lets that happen, or they're allowed to just bring a commandeered ATRT as part of their list, like post that happening. So we don't know how that whole commandeering mechanic works, specifically surrounding the ATRT itself. It'll be interesting to see. We'll have a lot more news on that as the year comes to a close. And again, we see the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi. So we'll have more information on that. Other than that, they showed some art cards. They showed an art card for Grogu. They didn't talk about his powers at all, or what he's going to do. So at the moment, his companion card, as I spoke about a little earlier, looks a little weak. So we'll have to see what happens with that. Um, they said that there are a lot of big, cool things coming for Legion. Lots of stuff coming down the pipe. So I would suspect that. Well, they also talked about other battle boxes that are coming other than the four that we already know about, the two that were announced today surrounding Endor. So we know that there's more coming. Aside from Ashoka, there was no mention of anything for CIS or GAR. So the clone era seems to not be getting a whole bunch of love. And they didn't mention timeline on like when we're going to see the swoop bikes, or when we're going to see the Mando IG-88 stuff. I think they maybe hinted towards the end of the year, but I don't think there's been a definitive drop date announced for any of these things, up to and including the Darktroopers and Moff Gideon. So lots of news today. Tomorrow, I believe, is going to be Marvel Crisis Protocol announcements. The other thing they did announce for Legion is there is going to be a new in-store event that happens at friendly local game stores, where there's different like targets on the battlefield, and you have to go and hack those, and every turn those change to which one you got to grab information from and then retreat. So it seems like it'd be an interesting little kind of strike force based mission. I don't know what the points value is or anything like that. They just kind of gave a blanket overview. They didn't give any specificity on when that's coming, the size of the forces you bring, or anything along those lines. Just kind of like the generic, it's a grab intel and run based mission system. So be interesting to see where that comes to. Other than that, though, it was pretty cool. Pretty cool. I mean, if you're a Rebellion era a Legion player, all day, every day, there was tons of information. If you're a Clone Wars player, unfortunately, other than the confirmation that Ahsoka's coming, not a whole bunch more is hitting the shelves at this point. Now, obviously, we're not saying that era is done. There's still a ton more stuff that can be looked into, and I got this sneaking suspicion that they'll probably do something along those lines. They got the whole Return of the Jedi thing coming with Mando and Book of Boba Fett. So I think at some point they're going to go back, because Bad Batch, you got the Bad Batch stuff in like Disney Plus. So I'm assuming you'll get those guys. I mean, you got stuff for CIS like Vulture droids that we haven't seen anything for yet, and that could be, along the lines with that tank, the crawling tank they have. You could see that coming. There's still quite a bit of stuff there. So I'm not all hope is lost for Clone Wars era play. We haven't seen or heard anything about the last trilogy, the Rey trilogy, the last Skywalker, whatever you want to call it. So we don't know if there's going to be anything coming down the pipe for that. I mean, all we heard was big things are coming. So we'll have to take their word for it. If it's anything like we're seeing here in today's previews, lots of cool stuff coming, lots of information they can tap into. I mean, speaking of, they got the Hive of Scum and Villainy was the theme, but we didn't see Forlom. We didn't see Forlom's partner. I forget his name, but we didn't see any information on those guys. We didn't see anything on Dengar. There's still basically three assassins that were on the bridge of the Death Star, or the Star Destroyer, that we haven't seen yet, that is actually Rebellion era. So, are those guys coming to go into the Shadow Collective or the Bounty Hunter armies? So, be interesting to see what's coming on with those guys, because I'd love to have all of those guys lined up, just feel one of the armies that lets you field all the bounty hunters, and you have all those OGs instead of Cad Bane and a couple of the others that we didn't see anything on Fennec. There's another character from Mando, Book of Boba Fett, especially Book of Boba Fett. We got the new Boba Fett. We haven't seen anything on Fennec yet. So I am positive she's coming because she is actually in one of Boba's art cards. It's Boba, Mando, and Fennec in the background. So, and one of the command cards that they showed. So I would assume that we're going to see Fennec here. I don't know if that's short or long game, but I would expect to see her pretty soon too. Anyway, folks, that's enough for me for day one of Ministravangaza. If you like what you see, you know what to do. Please like, comment, subscribe. I'd love to see that number grow a little bit. If you can make that happen, I would greatly appreciate it. Until next time, peeps, keep slapping paint.